Well, good morning, class. We are starting chapter two, and I decided to re-record my presentation, the first one, and this is the second take at it. And I hope you find this a little bit more helpful. So, in chapter two, we're going to be focusing on linear functions, thus the title, Chapter Two, Linear Functions. And our main focus is going to be looking at these two quantities we will call slope and y-intercept of linear functions. And we're going to be looking for connections between the multiple representations of linear functions. And you see that posted up in the classroom, our tables, graphs, equations, and situations. We're looking for this year a deeper understanding of the slope. We definitely talked about that last year in the 8th grade, but now we want to start morphing that into this slope as an idea of a rate of change, right? How something is changing over time. For example, it could be over time or other quantities, but you can think about like miles per hour. You can think of gallons per second. You can think about um, Doritos per chicken. I don't know, but just rates of change. And our guiding questions for this chapter. First of all, this is the first thing here is not a guiding question. It's a statement about mathematically proficient students. They reason abstractly and quantitatively. So that means we reason in ways where we're coming up with equations that represent not a specific situation, but all situations. So that's abstract reasoning. Quantitatively is us looking at numbers to maybe build those abstract models. And we also attend to precision. Um, that talks about our accuracy, how we know we're accurate. So when we say attend to precision, what we're saying is we're wondering, is that right? How do I know that's right? How, if I was wrong, what would be true, right? So we're asking ourselves those kinds of questions, and you can do that in a lot of things, even if you're thinking about just the laws of exponents that were introduced last chapter. As you work through this chapter, ask yourself, can I create a representation of a problem? Consider the units involved and understanding the meaning of the quantities using tables, graphs, and equations. Great. Today we are going to do just four problems. Problems 1, 2, 3, and 5. And at certain points you're going to need to capture the screen on your device and so that you can paste that into the report, this one-page report you're doing. And if you're not on Windows, if you're not on Mac, if you're on a Chromebook, I just want to talk about that. So for a Chromebook to do screenshots, you do Control plus Shift and then this window shifting key, right? This one, which is up near the top of your keyboard. If you click those three buttons, hold them down in that order, a little crosshair will pop up, like this kind of thing. And then if you drag over and down, right, it'll give you this rectangle portion of the screen that you're going to copy, because we just want a specific area, not the entire screen. So the first lesson is 2.1.1, how does it grow? Seeing growth in linear functions. Notice this graphic here, right? This reminds us of our multiple representation. Today we're going to be looking at, I think we're going to look at a situation, and from that try to produce a graph, a table, and an equation. And also part of the problem, one of them is going to give us an equation, and we're going to have to try and produce the other representations from that table, or from the equation rather. So throughout this chapter, you will explore the multiple representations of linear functions. You will look at tile patterns using growth and the number of tiles in figure 0. So that's an interesting thing, using the growth in the numbers, right, and the number of tiles in figure 0. So these two things I've highlighted are key ideas. Keep thinking about that. How is it growing and where does it start? Of these linear relationships to find specific connections between situations, tables, graphs, and equations. The specific situation you will work with today is growth of tile patterns. As you work today, keep these questions in mind. How can we see the growth in the tile pattern? How many tiles are in figure 0? So how can we see the growth? How many are in figure 0? What's the connection between the pattern and the equation? What's the connection between the pattern and the table? So let's go on to, and I said this, so just so you're clear, we're going to be doing questions 1, 2, 3, and question 5. In questions 1, 2, and 5, that's going to be the ones that are going to require you to screenshot your pattern and paste that into your doc. So let's take a look at this. It says tile pattern investigation. We are not going to be using the resource page. We are going to be using the student e-tool. And you can see that there's all of these things, right, A through F, that we should include in our report for that. And I'm going to do part one with you, and then you can look at that and extend it to questions 2, 3, and 5. So let's start by going to the actual CPM book and opening up the e-tool. Okay, so I've got my online book open, and I'm going down to question 1, and I'm going to go ahead and click the 2-1 student e-tool. And when I do that, it opens this. And it says complete the following task for pattern A. So there's some tasks and there's some questions here. We're going to be doing the tasks on this graph and then recording that image, but we're also going to be answering some of these questions. So we'll be going back and forth between answering the questions and working with this pattern. Down below, if you go down here further, you'll see that there's extra e-tools here. And I mean, they're the general tools, and we can drag more tiles out onto this screen, right? So that's how we're going to build things out. But it says, what do you notice about the pattern? Well, it seems like I'm adding tiles, like I'm adding one tile here, and I had two, right? I had two, and I'm adding two more tiles here. And you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, just like I did before, and I'm adding two more. I had the 2, and I'm adding one more. Um, One thing that's nice to do is to color in to show the growth. So if I was to click this, I could say, like, I want to change this color. I'll make this red. I change this color, make it red. Change this color, make it red. So I can see that I added this tile and I added these two. And same thing here, I'm adding, this is a new one, right? That was added, and then these two were added. Change color red, change color red. So I can see that how I'm growing. And in fact, if I was to go back, because I keep adding two on the right, I could say, look, let's say that these are two that are being added here. And this is being added. So when I do that now, it appears that I start out with these 4 tiles, right? And then in figure 1, I'm adding this tile, one on the left and 2 on the right. And then I add, going up, 1 on the left, 2 on the right. Going up, still 1 on the left, 2 on the right. And maybe I can go ahead and put down now what I think figure 0 would look like. So let me grab these. I'm going to just put 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I'm going to change these colors to green, right? Because this is whoops. This is not super efficient, but I'm right clicking these, change color green. And I think if you've got a trackpad, if you click off on the right of the trackpad, you can hit change color and change them. So there I am moving forward. It does say, by how much is tile pattern A growing? Where are the tiles being added with each new figure? So I think I'm ready to write a response to that. However, they did ask me to find figure 4, and I haven't done that yet. So let me fill in figure 4. Well, okay, that took longer than I thought it would, but I did fill in figure 4. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and set up the screenshot so that I can get ready to move this over into my dock. I'm just going to drag this rectangle around this. But before we open up the dock, I want to talk about the pattern a little bit more. So as I'm recording this, I am looking back at the book and thinking of the questions that they're asking. But one of the things that was asking is how is it growing each time as I move forward? And this is actually not the one that I just copied, is it? Okay, that looks better. So I I can see that as I move forward from figure to figure, I'm adding on figure 1 I've got 1 tile here. On figure 2 there are 2 tiles off to here. On figure 3 there are 3, and on figure 4 there are 4 tiles off to here. For figure 1, if you look at this, there are twice as many tiles as there were on this side. There's 1 here and there are 2 here. There are 2 here and there are twice as many, 1, 2, 3, 4 here. There are 3 here, and it turns out there are 6 here. and there are 4 here, and there are 8 tiles here. And I always have these ones in the my base tiles, right? There's always these 4 tiles down the middle. So I can talk about, how it's growing, how it's moving forward. One of the things that might be helpful too is to look at a different representation. I can look at a table of values, and I can say this is the figure, FIGUR, figure number, and this is the number of tiles. So in figure 0, I have 4 tiles. In figure 1, I've increased it by 3, so I'm at 7. 2, I've increased by another 3, so I'm now at 10. At figure 3, another 3 tiles increase, so I'm at 13. And at figure 4, I should have 16 tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, there are 16 tiles there. So the next question is a little alarming. It says, well, how many tiles are going to be in the 100th term? 100th. And I'm not going to answer that question, but I want you to think about what we observe happening here. I want you to look at what's happening on the left side, the left and the right hand side, the left and the right, and look at the relationship between the figure number and how many tiles are on the left and how many tiles are on the right. Like here, the figure number, how many are on the left and how many are on the right. And can you extend this pattern out to figure out how many tiles are in the 100th term? So I'm going to leave that for you. Let's go ahead and write our summary so far in Docs. So I do need to be able to put the graph, my table, my pattern in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste this in here. Whoops, I don't want to install that. Now I'm just going to do Control V. I don't want that one. Can I do this? Yes. This is the one that I want. Now that's way too big, so I'm going to grab the corner ones and resize it. You probably noticed if you do these, you're going to stretch it and you're going to change the aspect ratio. So avoid dragging things on the side handles. So if I hit Control Z, it'll undo that. Try and use the corner one so now I can resize it. Another thing is once you're in here, it's a really good idea to take something like this and to hit wrap text. So if I click that icon, now this can float anywhere, and as I write text, it'll bump up and wrap around it, so it's not going to go over it. So I'll leave this here like this. So let's try and write our summary for this pattern. The first question was, what do you notice about this pattern? Well, I think I mentioned that it has, or this pattern has 4 tiles in the middle, and it continues 1 tile on the left and 2 tiles on the right above the, well, it's not always above, right? But I'll just say going upwards, going up. Okay. And then B said sketch the figure. We did it. We did the coloring, so that's good. By how much is pattern A growing? So I said it's one being added to the left and 2 to the right. So the pattern is growing by 3 tiles each time. That would be C. What would figure 100 look like for the pattern? Describe it in words. So I do notice that figure 1 had 1 tile off to the left and 2 to the right. Figure 4 had 4 tiles off to the left and 8 to the right. So I think figure 100 would have the original 4 tiles in the middle and 100 tiles on the left and 200 tiles on the right, because I can see that that's what's happening, right? In figure 1, there's 1 to the left, 2 to the right. In figure 2, there's 2 that are to the left now from the original one. The green, there's this little green one right here. Where's my cursor? There's this little green one right here, and then the green one and the red one above it. And then you can see that this is twice as many. So there's 4 here. In figure 4, there's 8 and there's 2. So I think there's going to be, just like in figure 4, there's 4 here and then there's 8 here. There's going to be 100 tiles to the left and 200, twice as many on the right. So actually, I know. So that's 304 tiles. So I think it would have 304 tiles. Um, let's see. All right. Assume the starting value of any tile pattern is the number of tiles in figure 0. Okay, starting value for us would be 4, and the growth is 3. Okay, it says, what are the growth and starting values for this pattern? Okay, so this pattern starts at 4, which is figure 0, and adds 3 tiles each time. So it starts at 4. This pattern starts at 4, and it's growing by 3 each time. Okay, so we know this. The growth is 3 and the start is 4. And then it says write an equation that relates the figure number x to the number of tiles y. So this is not my favorite thing to do in Google Docs. Oh, but I could use the equation tool. Yeah, quick equations. Can I do that? Oh, I could. So I think that it is y is equal to, it's growing by 3 each time, 3x plus 4. So every single time x increases by 1, I get 4 more tiles. If x is 0, it would give me 4. If x was 2, no, if x was 0, I'd have 4 tiles. If x was 1, I'd have 3 plus 4 was 7. If x was 2, I'd have 6 plus the 4, which would be 13. So this is always kind of perplexing at first, but yeah, I'm adding 3 tiles each time. But notice that I'm recording that by 3 times x. This tells me how many 3's did I add, right? The x is how many 3's did I add. All right, so I've got this. This is a picture now. I should be able to drag this down here, and it's kind of big, so I'll shrink it down. And I don't like this. This equation shows that I start with 4 tiles, and each time x goes up by 1, I add 3 new tiles. All right, so that's me trying to get you started, get a grasp for what your work should look like. So this is my response for question 1. Question 2 is going to ask you to do something very similar with, in fact, you're going to have to address these questions with a different tile pattern. Question C will give you an equation, and it doesn't actually ask you to come up with a tile pattern. And then D is back to a tile pattern. So again, you're going to be looking at your ebook right? You're going to be reading this when you get to 2. This is the Etool for tool. And then it does say complete all of problem 2-1 for tile pattern B. So everything you saw me do in question 1, we're going to duplicate that for pattern B. 3, it says the growth of tile pattern C is represented by this equation. Here's an equation, and it says copy and fill in the table for pattern C. So this table, right, we're going to duplicate in our note in the not in our notebook, in your Google Doc. How many tiles is each by how many tiles is each figure growing by? What's the starting value? Um, and then we're skipping 2-4. 2-5 is a final tile pattern, and it just says consider the tile pattern D shown here. You can see this, and then it has fewer questions, some similar questions, right? Some similar things, but it's a little bit different than 1 and 2. So again, this assignment you have 2 days to do, right? This was assigned yesterday, and you're continuing to work on it. And there is no review and preview tonight. So this, not only do you have the class time to be working on this, but you also have the homework time. So this is the only thing that you're to be working on, and you should submit this by what is it? Well, look at the due date online, because this could be the future. I don't know when this is. Anyways, class, I hope you found this a little bit better than last time, and I'm right at 20 minutes plus, so I better stop. Goodbye.